Chapter 7-6, the lid assembly. If you've been watching these videos in order, we just completed testing the circuit for the roof pin and LED all the way from that portion here, all the way from this portion to all the way down to the bottom of the box wiring. We've already tested it. We've made sure it works. We know it's going to work for us and we don't have to redo any of this work. The next step is to grab the globe. I like using this globe. I think it's the Tennant globe. It has the ribbing on the side. I include these in the kit because it's small features and very short layers to get it right and looking really good and clean. So I've got my file set up for batch printing one at a time so that I don't get stringing between the models while the print head's moving between them. It just does one at a time and does it slow. So it's a long process, but I figure it's worth it, and not everybody's up for the very small feature detailed printing. I might include the windows at some point. I'm working on getting those dialed in, and I might just start including them standard in the kit since they're so hard to print well. So the next step is going to be, we just want to make sure it fits in there. It's a fairly loose fit, so no worries. And we're going to want a hot glue. And where you're going to want hot glue is inside the receptacle of the lid. You're going to want to hot glue inside the lip here so that when you press the globe in, you don't get glue inside the globe and you don't have hot glue sticking outside of the model because we don't want to see that. So I'm going to dab some hot glue inside the rim here and place the globe in and then give it a little bit of a turn to spread that hot glue around and get a better contact all around it. You will find that once people learn how to use this, see this box and see you using it, everybody's going to pull it up by the globe and cap. Originally, when I gifted the first one, I said, lift it from the lid, not from the globe, but everybody lifts it from the globe. So now we got to make sure we get a good solid fit on there, and you can lift it by the globe and overcome the force of the magnets, and it doesn't come apart. But we also do not want to use super glue. If you use super glue, Cyanogen, whatever, what's going to happen is the off-gassing from the vapors as it dries, you'll get some whitish residue or an effect on the outside of the lid near that area, and we don't want that. Hot glue works just perfectly well. So I'm going to be back in a moment after having hot glued this in. I'm not going to hot glue it on camera because it's ugly as heck and it's in another room. And then you'll see the hold, and we'll move on to the next part. So there we go. I dabbed the hot glue around about a quarter, almost half inch around the inside of that rim. I've placed the globe in there and gave it a slow turn, and it feels like it's in there nice and solid. I also looked at it so one of the corners was towards me and on the right, and I rotated it then so the seam of the globe was at the back. This way, if I'm careful about the rest of the assembly, when I put this in, the contacts, the 4 magnetic connector contacts will be at the appropriate place on the box and on the lid so that the seam will always be in the back. Yeah, I just try to like to hide that. You can see the seam. You can see it visually, just barely, but it's a really good print. So it's probably really hard to make out on camera, which is kind of the point. And next I'm going to hot glue. I'm going to try using hot glue for the top cap and see how that holds on there. And we're back with the top cap. I just put a small dab of hot glue in the inside flat surface area of the cap and then placed it on the globe and then rotated it slowly so that the seam would be in the back lined up with the seam of the globe. And yeah, it's already a nice snug fit. So there we go. Now you want to make sure that when you hot glued the globe, you don't have, I did have some glue sticking in here in the hole that would interfere with the LED being inserted into the cap. So while it was still warm, I just used the needle pick here and I just pulled the hot glue to the side, and you can see it's totally out of the way now and ready to receive the LED. I just realized that I did the top cap, and this is the last step in this section in the guide, but I just did it right up front. But it doesn't matter, it still works, and the order for that part isn't inconsequential. So now I'm flipping this backward. I've oriented so that one of the corners is in the towards me on the right, and I'm verifying that the seam for the globe and the cap is at the back. And the next step is going to be actually placing this connector right in here. Hopefully it snaps as it did before. You see it presses in there, nice and smooth, and it sits flush with the rest of the lid. And one of the last steps now is going to be placing. I'm just placing the wires, gently bending, and getting that LED there into the hole for the globe. And you won't see the LED in there because, one, this is white, and two, it's nice diffusion as I printed that globe, so you're not going to see it. But one of the last steps here is going to be hot gluing inside this area where the LED goes into the globe so that stays in place. It may not be necessary, but I like to add that extra step. Again, it's going to look a little wonky with the wires sticking out of the wire channel some, but once you put the wire channel cover on, it will look fine. So I'm not going to do this hot glue because I'm going to be taking this apart after, and it might be hard to get the glue gun in there and not mess up the wire channel. You don't want to put glue in this along the sides of the wire channel, or that part may not press fit in there. So I'm going to just take this and gently press. The wire channel cover has a groove. You can see it there. It has a V groove so that the wiring will kind of settle into that groove and not be compressed. And I'm just going to press it down in there. Ooh, that's nice. Wish you could felt that with me. That was nice. Anyways, that's a good fit. And what I've started for a couple of the bottles that I've gifted, I haven't even hot glued this in because there's no force trying to pull it out. So if it's a problem in the future, it slips out on somebody, they can just add some hot glue and get it back in there. And the last step's going to be applying the magnet. At this point, it doesn't matter which magnet adapter you're sliding in there. So now this channel cover puts a little pressure on this side of the magnet adapter, and there's a couple nubs, if you'd noticed, inside on the sides here to also help add a little friction, help retain this adapter, and just snaps right in there. Look at that surface. See if I can get it in there on camera. Pretty darn smooth. What you see over here is a difference in level is more so because the wire channel cover slips in there a little bit deeper than everything else, just to make sure that it's not problematic. There we go. Anyways, that's a nice clean build for the lid assembly, and it is all complete. And in fact, I'm going to pull out some leads and a little power supply and test that, just so I can show you how it looks. So here I've mounted the lid on top of the box that I was using, my hated box print, but it fits on there fine, and I still have the wiring and connector in there from doing the 4-pin contact. So as you can see, the lid comes off, you have contacts, and it holds on there. And now I'm going to turn on the battery. That does not look bad. Let's see if we can zoom in on that. Hopefully it's reasonably enough centered. See, we have good diffusion from the light that's in there. Nicer than when I tried to keep the print looking clear with the globes. So I really love this diffusion and the lighting that it puts out. So there you go. Now the lid is complete. On to the next step.